And welcome to another episode of More Than Therapy. Today we have Nancy J. McKay, a change agent. Her quote, her mantra is change your thoughts, change your life. And I know this to be true for myself, but I would like Nancy to speak more about it at this time.
Well,
Nancy, tell me about the concept of changing your thoughts, changing your life, because I don't think a lot of people believe that. People go to therapy, they go to life coaches, and they believe that those persons give them the tools to change and not necessarily see the tools within themselves.
mm, well, that's a really interesting thought,
Yeah,
and I want to thank you very much for having me on the show this morning. It's really nice to be here. Um, yes,
thank
I
you.
believe that um, thoughts create our reality, and we all humans have inner wisdom that if we tap into it, we know the answers to what we are seeking.
Yes, I believe
We,
that.
yeah, we don't, I don't have the ability to tell you something about you that you don't already know
Right,
deep down inside.
right,
I may be able to help you unpack it, peel back the layers so that you can discover it. That's what I do.
right.
But I'm not going to be able to tell you something about yourself that you don't already know deep down.
And
If
I
you
agree.
really dig down deep, you're going to find the answers that you're looking for. I just help you get there.
Right. And I believe that to be true too. I just believe a lot of people themselves don't believe that. Because
Right.
honestly,
Exactly right.
we don't, you have a whole snapshot of your life. We only have what you share with us and maybe an assessment or a collateral assessment. That doesn't really give a good picture, as people don't always give all their stuff up at any of these things because of, stigma association as well as shame.
Right.
I believe that even as I go to a therapist, my therapist may even say this and say, "You already know the answer," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I know, but I need support."
Well, and that's why we go to therapists or life
Right,
coaches or psychiatrists, is to have them use their expertise in helping us uncover the truth.
right,
So,
right,
you know, we we often get stuck because we don't know how to go there, and we don't know how to go there without support. So,
right,
I mean, we might dig a little bit and then it throws us into a tailspin or something, and we need someone to help us get out of the pit or out of the spin. and
right,
and that's why people should hire professionals to help them do that, whether it's
right.
a doctor or an attorney or a therapist or a psychiatrist or a life coach. It's just, you have someone there to support you as you go on this journey of self exploration.
Indeed. And I know that to be true because I remember when I was younger, many moons ago, if I told myself I couldn't do it, I literally could not do it. But when I removed that notion that I could not do it, every single time I did it. And I was amazed. I was like, it. And of course, when you're young, you don't think about, think differently, act differently, behave differently. You don't really think about those concepts. But it was such an amazing concept that I had to remove no or I can't from my vocabulary in
Exactly.
order to get to a higher plateau.
Right. Well, there's a saying that says, when you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Right. That's right.
Either way, if you say I can do it, you'll do it. If you say you can't, you won't, because
Mm-hmm.
our mind is so powerful. And at the same time, our brains will lie to us all day long. They will tell us our 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 inner voice will go on and tell us, you can't do that. You're too stupid to do that. You're
Mm-hmm.
too
Mm-hmm.
lazy. You're too whatever. You can't possibly do it.
That's what I tell people all the time. Your brain can be your best friend or
Or
your
your
worst
worst
enemy.
enemy.
And
Exactly.
as intricate as the brain is, it's a simple machine in many ways. If you say it can't, it will move you towards behaviors that you cannot do it. If you
Right.
say you can, it will move you towards behaviors that indicate that you can do it. It
Yep.
says basically, you're the driver, spirit. Go into what direction you want to go in.
Yep. And so what I do is I help people listen to their body, because their body knows the truth. We have this body wisdom that will tell us yes or no.
Right.
And
Right.
and most times it disagrees with what our brain is telling us. So
Yeah.
if we learn to listen to our body, then we'll find the truth. But it's it can be a challenge, and people don't know how to do that because we weren't brought up that way. We weren't
Right.
brought up
Culture
to
doesn't
listen to our
understand.
bodies.
How do
So
you teach people to listen to their bodies? Because that's a strange concept, because especially regarding mental health and wellness, a lot of clinicians are taught avoiding the mind. You know what I'm saying? Don't focus on the spirit, don't focus on the body. As we transition, we know better that we have to be holistic,
right.
mind, body, soul.
Mhm.
How do you teach people to overcome that barrier and listen to their body?
Well, one of the things that I've been taught to do is called a body compass, and that's when it's a process where you bring up a memory of something that's on kind of the negative spectrum, and so you feel into that memory until you get a physical response to it. So like maybe your jaw tightens, or your throat closes up, or your heart starts to pound, kind of uncomfortably, or you get a knot in your stomach, something like that. And then I have you rate that on a scale of 0 to -10, so that you can identify it. And then I have you give it a name. So like, you know, that 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 imprisoned feeling, or that tight feeling, or the nauseous, or something like that. And then I have you shake that off, and then I have you remember a pleasant memory. You feel into your body, then you wait until you take it over in your mind, and you wait until you get a physical response from that memory. And I have you do the same thing. I have you name it, identify it, rate it on a scale of 0 to +10. So what this does is it gives you a baseline of how your feelings range. So then if something comes up for you, you can run it through your body compass. What is my body feeling? Am I feeling more, tight jaw, closed throat, knot in the stomach? My body's telling me that's a bad idea. If my heart's opening up, if I feel butterflies in my stomach, if it feels, if I feel light, that's probably a good idea to do that. So then we key ourselves into listening to our body and knowing how we feel about things. And there's all sorts of different really cool tests you can do that are just physical tests responding to things. And those, they're like lie detectors. It's brilliant. Our body just knows if we give it the opportunity to tell us, if we listen to it.
Yes, there's a great quote. I think it's a book also. The body keeps the score. So yeah.
Absolutely. It's a
Mhm.
great book. Great book. Yep.
Haven't read it, but I'm definitely going to have to, because
It's
I
a
hear
good
so
one.
much about it, especially as I'm thinking about transitioning to getting EMDR certified. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
thinking about it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Yep.
Horses. I noticed some
Oh,
horses in your background.
yep.
I spoke recently with a woman from Arizona who's a clinician who works with horses as well.
Mm,
I live in Durham County, which is known for horses as well. But I'm from Mississippi, and I had an accident with a Clydesdale, which makes me fearful of horses.
mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, tell me about your work with horses and how that helps people regarding their wellness.
Well, the thing that is so cool about horses is, well, I think they're magic, number one, right out of the gate. That's, I just think they're magic. And they're magic because they have incredible intuition. And horses don't lie. So they mirror back to us the energy that we're putting out to the universe. And what that means is, if I'm working with a client and I ask them, how's it going today? And they say, everything's great. Everything's going really good. I don't have anything to complain about. Well, if they're telling the truth, then the horse will be responding to them energetically. So the horse will be, paying attention to them. They'll be licking and chewing, which is a sign of contentment. They'll be engaging with the client. If the client is full of it, then the horse is on the other side of the round pen. They're not engaging with the client because they know that the horse or that the client isn't being authentic. And horses don't have any desire to be engaged in authenticity. So they don't have an agenda, but they know that if that energy isn't authentic, they're going to steer clear of it. There's no reason for them to be drawn to it, and they know that it's something that they don't want to engage in.
Is it energy, or is it like maybe a pheromone or something that we put out?
Well,
What is it to take?
I think it's energy, and it could be pheromones, but it's all connected in what our, because our thoughts create our feelings, and that creates our energy. Right. And so if we think that, we're all that, if we're telling ourselves we're all that in a bag of chips, but we know that, deep down inside, we don't believe that, then there's a incongruency going on, and the horse picks up on the incongruency, and they won't be likely to engage there. But if we acknowledge that I'm afraid, I'm worried, I feel guilty about something like that, where they can pick up on the authenticity of our energy, then they come right up to us. And it's like, so when they hit on something that is really at the core of the issue that they're talking about, when they land on something, when they have that aha, then the horse responds. And because the horse is responding, mirroring back to them, then it's really easy for me as the coach to go, okay, now we're on to something here, because the horse is telling me that we're on to something. And otherwise the horse, really just doesn't, because they're herd animals, they want to be engaged with authentic energy.
There you go.
And because they depend on that in their herd. They depend on, the other horses to keep an eye out, and, so on and so forth. So it's very, it's important for them to have that authentic energy going on.
And I believe that being authentic is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. But saying that, I also know that being authentic is daunting and scary to a lot of people because of their cultural upbringing, because of their family influence, because of society itself in some ways, that it would bring shame and stigma, because we have as a society, as a culture, as a family, a tendency to point fingers, especially if we want to drive that focus on us and our issues.
Right.
How do people, what steps do people take to become authentic, or what have you found to be beneficial?
Well, I think that the first thing that you have to do in order to be authentic, I think, is to allow yourself to be vulnerable, and you're not going to be vulnerable unless you feel safe. So unless you are in an environment where you don't feel like you're going to be judged, then it's hard to be vulnerable. So and being vulnerable creates courage.
Yeah.
So if you allow yourself to be vulnerable and open yourself up, that builds your courageous muscles, your resilience muscles. And so then the more vulnerable you are, the more vulnerable you can be. And then that tells you that I can be authentic. I can be honest,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to either be judged, or if I am judged, it's not going to affect me so much because I feel confident in my authenticity. And I'm thinking about this as I'm saying these words, because I'm putting myself in that position to feel vulnerable. and how does, how is that making me feel? You and I have never met, um, and yet I'm really starting to open myself up here. And um, and I know that if you or any of your listeners think, well, she's got to screw loose, or something, then that's okay. It's not going to diminish my belief in myself. And I think it takes a while to work up to that. When I got sober 12 years ago, I was full of shame and full of just kind of, oh my God, I was just deflated and felt horrible about myself, right? And so over the last 12 years, I've learned how to allow myself to be vulnerable. And so, it's not something I don't think that you can do overnight, but it's something that you can do with practice. And you practice that by being vulnerable in a safe place, where you won't be judged. And that's one of the beautiful things about working with a coach or a therapist, someone who you can trust to, hold that safe space for you.
Indeed, indeed. You've conquered the monster, alcoholism, and congratulations on your journey of being sober. It's a lifelong journey. We both know this.
Yep.
But 12 years strong, and you also were one who battled and beat the diagnosis of ovarian cancer.
Yep.
I tend to use the word survivor, but I'm trying my best to move away from that term and try to find a more term that coins the strength. Surviving is just surviving,
Right.
but to beat, to conquer it, to get over it and move past your life is another thing entirely. I think survivor kind of takes away from the concept of getting past these things, beating these things. So I'm trying my best to move away from that term, but that's like the only term that really comes to mind in our current society.
Well, it's interesting. There's a couple of schools of thought there. One of them is, I'm a cancer warrior, or
Mhm.
I fought like hell, that sort of thing. And
Mhm.
and there's a school of thought that thinks that, we want to take the fight part out of it because it indicates that it's a conflict, and then you're right with the survivor part. It's very it can be victimy, right? And how I choose to look at my diagnosis with cancer is that it was a gift, because it changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life. It gave me the desire to get out of the status quo and start a new career, and I started training for that career at the age of 60. So, and I had a lot of people telling me, it's kind of late in the day to start a new career, and why would you want to, and that sort of thing. And my feeling was, I've still got time left, and my mantra is I didn't get sober and survive cancer to be miserable. And so if I want to live a life of purpose and fulfillment, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that in the job, in the career that I had. It wasn't feeding my soul, and I needed something that was going to feed my soul. And so that's why I'm doing now what I'm doing, is because I want to help other women who have gone through something similar, or something, that just rocks their world, and think they can't get through it. And we can. Anybody can. Now, I want to add that my cancer was not terminal. It was early stage. I went through chemo. That was kind of an insurance policy. And so I have not had any recurrence or any horrible struggle with the diagnosis that I received.
Okay.
So I don't know what it feels like to be essentially fighting for your life. At the same time, I know, because of the training that I've received, that we don't have to suffer with the consequences as badly if we change our thoughts about them. So, for instance, it's not the circumstance that causes our suffering, it's our thoughts about the circumstance that causes our suffering, or our experience, whatever it is, happy, sad, mad, whatever. So, you have a cancer diagnosis and you can think, poor me, or I'm going to die, or this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And if you think those thoughts, then those create emotions and feelings of either anger or depression or sadness or defeat. And then you take actions based on those emotions. And as a result, you're going to be miserable. And that would have happened to me if I had thought that way, even though I didn't have a horrible diagnosis. Yes, I got a cancer diagnosis, but I could have made it so much worse than it was, right? And instead, now that it really was a gift. And at the time, I did not one time think, why me, or poor me, or anything like that. I thought, I'm going to get through this and we're going to move along, right? And I did because of my thoughts, because it created, and at the time I had no idea that's what I was doing, really, except that, I've got a little bit of, Irish chutzpah in me, I guess. And I thought, I'm not gonna let this take me down.
Indeed, indeed. I had a client when he was younger, he had received a cancer diagnosis and he was able to get through it and go through it. It caused some lasting issues, but he was able to overcome it. Um, years later, the same cancer came back, and he was at a point where he just gave up. He was just like, when it came back, I'm done. It's a done game, and he succumbed to it much faster than the doctor said he would. I think likely linked to his mental state, his focus on it was over.
Mm-hmm.
As I remember in previous years when I had a client with a cancer diagnosis, if as a team or as a clinician, I was able to support them regarding being positively focused, more often than not, they were able to beat the cancer or able to overcome the diagnosis.
Absolutely. And even if you're not, it makes what life you have left so much more bearable and enjoyable, than being, feeling like a victim or, so defeatist that it's over. I might as well just hang it up right now. So it not only makes things difficult for the person, but it also makes it really difficult for everybody around them. Mm-hmm. And so, it changes the chemistry and the energy all over the place. And, indeed. Of course, if you think this is horrible, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're going to deteriorate that much faster because of your mental state and the emotions that it causes in your body. Once again, mm-hmm. your body wisdom, and you'll go down that route a lot faster.
Right. Like we said before, if you tell your mind you feel one way or you think one way, that's the direction it moves you in. And your mind controls every aspect of who you are. Absolutely. So it says, oh, you think you're gonna die? Then I guess we'll move you towards dying. Versus I think I'm gonna live, then to start moving you towards living.
Yep.
It's a crazy. It's a very complicated machine.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Indeed.
One of my coaches said to me one day, our brains are like a toddler. It's like your thoughts are like a toddler running around in your brain with a butcher knife. You just never know what it's going to slash at, and
there you go. Right.
So that's something that I like to keep in mind when and we all do it. It doesn't matter how far how enlightened we are. And I'm not saying that I'm enlightened, but it doesn't matter how much training you've got or how long you've been working on your mindset. We all, as humans, we all have this monkey mind, this monkey brain that, pops up and says, you've got to be out of your mind if you think you're going to be able to do that.
There you go.
And it's just a matter of learning how to catch those thoughts and, unpacking them and letting them go and changing the thought to something different. And being efficient at that, because it's going to happen. It happens to everybody. It's learning how to deal with it when it does. That's the ticket.
Indeed. You're a contributing author to Ready to Fly. I think it's currently on volume 3.
It is on volume 3. We're on volume 3, and I was so excited to be chosen as a contributing author. I have, up until that point, I really hadn't written anything of substance at all, and didn't even know if I had any talent. And I was delighted and very surprised to find out that someone thought that what I had to say was worth reading. So
definitely.
It was a really nice surprise and pretty cool. So
congratulations. I think writing is one of the best gifts we can give anyone.
Absolutely. Writing in mental health, you bet.
Yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, my chapter is just about my story growing up with my father was an alcoholic and my mom was a heavy drinker, and um, so it's just that, and then rolls right into my alcoholism and cancer and so on and so forth. So it's um, you know it's
Indeed.
an inspiring story, I hope. And
Is it available on Amazon or on your website?
the book is available on Amazon. People can also contact me to get a copy of the book, and also I have my chapter is available as a PDF that I can. Um, I'd love to send to people if they want to um, let me know that they want it. So,
Okay,
but
okay,
the
okay.
book is full of inspiring stories from some incredible women that I'm honored to be a part of. So it's a great book, and all three volumes are that way. The uh, author, the the creator of this, Crystal Blue, has her her incredible stories in the books, and she's created this platform for people to share, and so there's a fabulous group of women in each book.
Indeed,
Great
indeed.
stories.
You're a life coach.
I am.
How'd you come into being that? I mean, I know you said you started your mental health contributing around age 60. What made you want to choose that path in regards to giving, empowering, and helping people?
Well, I've always been very interested in personal development, and
Mhm.
um, so I kind of just naturally go there. People always come to me asking for advice or help, so that was kind of a natural way for me to go when I knew that I wanted something different. Um, I had come across Martha Beck, who is she has a life coach school that I went to, and she had written a book that I read in over the Christmas holiday of 2016,
Mhm.
and it just, when you read something that just absolutely resonates with you, you feel like it was written especially for you,
Yes. Yeah.
that they sat down and wrote that book for you. And that's
Mhm.
the way this book felt for me. It was her first novel. It's called Diana Herself. And this book just resonated with me so much. And my story's not like the heroine in the book, but there was just something about it that grabbed me. And so I had an opportunity to go to a workshop of hers over my 61st birthday.
Oh man.
Or not, yeah. So I read the book. Yeah, it was in, doesn't matter, 2016. Anyway, 2017. And so I read this book. It just really got my attention. I went to see her in California at a workshop, and that's all it took. I
Mhm.
I decided that that's what I wanted to do, and so I enrolled in her program. And you know, as they say, the rest is history. I knew that that's what I was meant to do, and
Indeed. Indeed.
so that's what I'm doing. And I got my training and retired from my corporate job in 2019, and so I've been doing this full time for a couple of years, which just blows my mind that it's gone by that fast.
Wow. Indeed. Indeed.
So,
Well, thank
so
you. Thank you for giving us the gift of empowerment and how thinking differently gives you a different result, creates a different universe and world for you. I
it
remember when I
really
first
does.
came into that concept, it was the Matrix. You remember the Matrix movies?
Oh yeah, yep,
It's funny how all these little nuances about what the real world should be or is hidden within media,
yeah,
and we never ever
yeah,
realize it.
right. Yeah,
Right.
you never know what's going to strike you that gets your creative juices flowing. You know, what's going to change
Right.
the world for you. And
Indeed.
you know, who knows? But I'm grateful for all the teachers and mentors that I've had along the way, and those whom I haven't met yet that I'll continue working with, because that's one of the other things that's so cool about personal development is there's always more to learn, and there's so much growth, and I'm excited to keep learning. And that's one of the things that I think is cool is that I still want to, and know that there's a lot more out there.
Indeed.
And in here and inside, because it's all an inside job.
Well, you contributed to a book. Will you be coming out with your own book?
I hope so. I hope to write my memoir. I'd like to start working on it this year. I've already kind of started since I've got the chapter, but yeah, I would like to write my memoir.
Okay.
I think everybody's got a wonderful story inside them, and the more we share of ourselves, the more we can hopefully create a better world where we understand that we're all the same. There's differences, there's nuances, there's but we're all human, and we all have feelings. And I think if we all realized our similarities rather than our differences, it would be a better place.
And then not only that, with writing, especially our memoirs, our stories, we're showing our authentic self and normalizing authenticity.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. One of the things that I talk about and that I'm very passionate about is the stigma that still surrounds alcoholism and addiction. And, a lot of people still feel like it's a moral issue. And I just, I think it's nothing further from the truth. And, because of the way I felt about myself when I knew I was drinking too much and I couldn't put my finger on why I couldn't stop. It felt like a moral issue to me. And and it's not, but it takes education, and it takes people to understand that this is not something that we grew up dreaming of becoming. And I'm very passionate about it, and it kept me drunk for a long time because I didn't want to face it. I didn't want to face having to do the things that are necessary to stop. And so I just kept drinking because of the stigma. And so that's what I try to do is offer a different way so that people don't feel like it's they're horrible people.
Right.
So.
Indeed. Any final words, Ms. McKay?
Well, not really. I just love if anybody's interested or have any questions, that they can reach out to me. And my email is nancy@amazingoutlookcoaching.com. And I'd love to visit with anybody, answer any questions, or just have a conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll have all this information that you provide us will be available via the listeners and subscribers to the podcast More Than Therapy.
Great.
I really appreciated the conversation that we had today. It allowed me, to take a step back and really focus on thinking differently, as I've been finding myself trapped in a cycle of thinking negatively, and my life has slowly transitioned into negative outcomes. So I think everything happens for a reason. Our delay in recording and it being today, after I had a therapy session earlier today, just reinforcing I need to think differently. I need to, in order to be different, in order to manifest more positive outcomes. A lot of
Yeah.
times the things that we manifest or we think push us in behaviors that align themselves with that ideology and pushes us there. So I thank you
Yeah.
for reminding me of that.
You bet. You bet.
All
We
right.
all need the reminder.
Indeed.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Be
Thank
well and be
you.
great. All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.